to the Hot Nerd Network, where we celebrate diverse personalities and fandoms. I'm Hot Nerd Misha, and I'm joined by Hot Nerd April today. We'll be discussing The Bear Season 3, Episode 6. This is an iconic episode because it is directed by Iola Debris, and it's just giving us a change of pace. So we're going to start by doing a little bit of a recap. We'll touch base on different themes we've identified. We'll talk about the impact of Black women in directing, and then we'll give you guys a quick little rapid fire session with us. All
Yay.
right. So you finished the whole season, right?
I did. I did.
Okay. I'm a little bit behind by like 2 episodes, but I've seen what matters, episode 6.
Okay.
How
That's
did you?
all that matters. It's a very stressful show, so yeah, take your time.
Definitely, I agree. I get anxiety and take breaks in between because I can't. But all right, with episode 6, this episode is mostly focused around Tina. We all know and love her, but this is giving us a little bit more of a backstory and insight on her. It's very emotional. If you haven't seen it, this is a little bit of a spoiler, so you might want to skip ahead. But we see her lose her job she's been at for 15 years. We see her then struggle to find a new job as the rent is increasing on their home and they have a young child that they're trying to keep in the school district. We see her going through all these opportunities and getting denied and then stumbling into the beef and finding new potential opportunities. So it's a lot of dynamic relationships, a lot of no's, and then just seeing a bright light somewhere. Do you have anything to add to the recap?
Honestly, yeah, that's it. You described it very well.
All right. So for you, I want to ask, after watching this episode, did it change your perspective of Tina?
um, Definitely. I think that when we were first introduced to her in season 1, she was pretty hardcore, like very, very tough, right? And sometimes a little mean, to be honest. And I think that this sort of gave a background to who she is, why she is the way she is, and why she's so protective of the restaurant. That sort of gave her that hope and that a new beginning. So I definitely think I just see her. Not that I didn't see her that way, but I just see her as like a full human being that has had these experiences that have shaped who she is today. So I would say yes, for sure.
I love that you mentioned her being protective about the restaurant because I didn't even think about that, but I would be too because I felt so bad. She got so many no's and just like false leads, and she had like her little breakdown. So I would be protective too if this was the only person who like gave me a chance and didn't even ask any questions. Um,
Definitely. And even gave her like the reason why she was even able to have that conversation is because, Richie gave her free food, and so it's just like, it's just beautiful to see the culture of the restaurant and why she loves it so much, and why she loves the people so much.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it also changed my perspective of Tina. I also kind of viewed her as a little bit hard, but I mean, that's how she came off in the beginning, where she wasn't really with change. She's a little
Mhm.
like short with her words,
Yeah,
but I loved this episode because it felt like she was just so soft and just sweet and very kind. Like I love seeing her dynamic with her husband in this scene. Like it just gave me a different side of her that we didn't really necessarily see too often. I think I kind of saw this in the previous season where Carmi gave her his knife, and like we get little snippets, but I really enjoyed this.
yeah, it's so nice. We saw her as a mom, although like her son doesn't really show up. We
Mhm.
saw her as a mom. We saw her as a wife. We saw her as an office worker, like the job that she was doing, and how she shows up in each of those spaces. And I think that's so, I don't know, it's so beautiful to be able to see that in a character on a show, because you don't typically, see that, especially in shows that are around work, office
Definitely.
related, like whether it's there's so many shows like office jobs, teachers, supermarket, and you don't really get to see their full picture. So it was really beautiful to sort of give her that shine in this episode. I loved it.
I agree 100%. Like, you said everything I could. I guess moving from that, the next thing I wanted to talk about was key scenes from this
Mhm.
episode. What are things that stood out for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. First of all, I want to say that this episode, especially having immigrant parents that had to sort of like really work hard to make ends meet,
Hmm.
coming to a new country, not speaking the language, working day in and day out. It was extremely emotional because it felt really personal, for me. And the scene that stood out to me, I mean, so many scenes I feel like were so good. But for some reason, the scene where, she works really hard in the office, she's smiling, and then they call her in,
Yeah.
and, she's given years, like, was it 15 years or
It was
however
15.
long?
It was, that's a
Yeah.
long
And
time. It's a decade and some change.
and literally like they just got her together, not even one on one, it's like a few other people, and they're telling her about this, and like it like zooms out and it's just a clock, because basically once she hears that, she's just kind of like
Yeah.
not even there, she's not even present anymore.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it just shows how corporate America could be so dehumanizing.
I love that.
And
Yes.
how people just like 15 years and this is it, just like, okay, bye, like you just work and work and work.
Yeah.
um
It's a piece of the machine. They don't really care.
exactly. So it was just, I don't know, for some reason it just reminded me of my parents have like working so hard every single day, going into work. And um I think during, was it 2008, or when like the whole recession was happening, so
Yeah.
many people in my family were like just losing jobs and things are happening, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna pick up the pieces and go try, to find someplace else. So that scene was really powerful, just seeing how much time she'd put in, and they just like fired her so easily. I was like, this is so dehumanizing, So that really stuck out to me as a scene that was powerful.
I love that because I'm not gonna lie to you, that one kind of glazed over my head. Like I saw it, but
Yeah.
as you talk on it, I really resonate with that because I remember kind of similar. I have immigrant parents as well, but that whole job moment kind of went over my head. But where they were talking about rents increased and they're worried about money, I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's relatable, especially even now.
Yep, exactly. It's
I
crazy.
do. But I think for me, a big scene that stuck out was when Mikey was sitting down, just like talking with Tina. Like you could tell, like he didn't really want to go talk to her while she was crying, and he didn't want to make it uncomfortable. But I like how he kind of approached things, and he didn't necessarily outright ask her what was wrong, but he kind of talked about what wasn't going well for him, and then they opened up a little bit more, and just like getting to know her. But I think on top of that, what really caught me about that scene was the framing of it. Like the narration or the conversation between them was powerful, but the framing of her being a little bit more in the shadows, like kind of told me, oh, she's in a darker place. And
Mm.
then there's like the light hitting him from the back, kind of gave me like, oh, he's like a saving grace to her, and he offers her the job, and it just felt really powerful to me. And I actually got chills in that moment, like actually.
Oh, that's so, yeah, I didn't even think about the framing of,
Right.
like I literally didn't even think about that. But everything that you said, I agree with, in terms of that scene being so powerful and so beautiful. And he didn't outright ask her what's wrong. He was like, "Is the sandwich really that bad?"
Yeah.
It's like that humor. He's like, "No, I wasn't really crying." She's like, "I wasn't bawling." It was just a funny encounter. So yeah, that was a beautiful scene for sure. I agree.
No, it made me chuckle because you could see him like kind of circling her with like the napkins, like refilling things that probably didn't need to be refilled. So I don't know. It felt very just human, very real.
Yeah, literally this whole episode. That's how
Yeah,
it was. Like,
exactly.
this just feels so real. I need to pause this episode.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked on it, but I felt like I was really just a fly on the wall. Like I wasn't watching from a TV, but I was really there, like just sitting in the restaurant, and this happened like across from me.
Yeah, very. That's I think what the Bear does so well in terms of the writing of the script or whatever it is. The writers do a really really good job of humanizing these characters,
Mhm.
and in some shape or form you relate to these people, you know, and so it just feels like, yeah, it just feels so real. So I agree.
All right. So taking into account our favorite scenes, do
Mhm.
you feel like there was a tonal shift in this episode, or did it flow like seamlessly with the other episodes in the season?
I mean, I think that this felt like this episode could just stand on its own, like without
Okay.
you know, like it's its own, like it's really a story about Tina. And
Hmm.
I don't know, it just felt like, I don't know how to say it. Like I think, you know, I don't want to say what we were previously had mentioned. I don't want to, but yeah, like literally that's how I feel. It
No,
just
you can go ahead and say it.
movie. Like that's what it felt like. You know, like it just, it can stand on its own. And I feel like yeah, and then I'll talk more about like how it felt different than maybe like, you know, like because of her, who's directing it, how it shifted. But I felt like it could stand on its own, and that was different than maybe the other episodes that I'd watched.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I pulled from it also. I'm not even mad you said it. But yeah, I like watching it, I didn't really think about it. But as she like went to her bag and like had the shirt at the end of the scene, I was like, I just watched a short film. Like
Literally, that
I watched
end.
a film in like 20 minutes. Like this really told me a whole narrative. Like they gave me the highs and lows. I got a conclusion out of it. And I feel like I was sitting there for like maybe 5 minutes, but I was there for like half an hour or something.
Mm,
I don't understand how she made such a lengthy narrative feel so condensed but long at the same time.
yeah, that's literally the best way to put it. Covered everything. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, it's such a great episode. It's such a great episode.
No, it was gorgeous. And I think they did a really good job of carrying, although like the tone shift, they carried a lot of the similar themes from the season while adding new ones. Were
Yes.
there any themes you picked up on?
One theme that I think has shown up in like almost every episode is just this, you know, generational trauma that the
Yeah.
characters are experiencing, and like how it just shows up in everyone. And I mean, I'm sure with Tina, we don't know like her upbringing,
Mhm.
but I'm sure based off of how hard she's working, how she's hardcore, how, you know, there's that anxiety of finances, whatever it is, there's definitely a story behind that. And we see Mikey and how he shows up. And so I think that this like whole show, honestly, I always think that the underlying theme is definitely like generational trauma, mental
I
health,
agree.
alcoholism, how it just shows up, and how it impacts, you know, every character in the show.
No, I agree. The trauma throughout this runs deep. And I think the crazy part about it is that they touch on so many different types of trauma that no matter who you are, there's probably something you can relate to, which it's kind of scary. It's a little triggering,
Yeah,
but it's something that needs to be said.
definitely. Yeah, I think like you said, you know, we were able to sort of relate to Tina, and um like what she was going through in terms of like rent is, you know,
Yeah.
coming up and rent is increasing, and like I may lose my job, and obviously like living paycheck to paycheck and that stress that comes with it, trying to find a job and being older, and that like ageism, you know,
Yeah.
like there's
Oh
just
my
so many things covered within that that you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, I'm going to be able to relate to it, whether it's me experiencing it or my parents or somebody I know. It's relatable in some way. It's just such we keep saying this, but it's like it's very very real. the show. Like they just
Yeah,
do a beautiful job of making these dynamic characters that I think a lot of people can relate to in some shape or form.
for sure. You touched on a theme that like I immediately noticed was like ageism. That made me so sad because like you could see it from people that she encountered throughout like these job interviews or like potential opportunities, but you could also see she really internalized it and made it almost like the determining factor of her worth, and it made me so sad. Like I think it was seeing her go to like the retail store and all the young retail workers are just clearly ignoring her as she's like kind of tapping the papers at the desk, and the guy was just very dismissive, like, "Oh, if you're not buying anything, we're not hiring. Like, we don't have jobs. But if you want to buy something," and then her going to like the potential interview, and the one like receptionist was so he made me so upset. Like, he felt like there was no eye contact. I feel like it showed a generational gap, but also like a lack of respect for elders. And just seeing her trying to navigate LinkedIn, I really felt for her. I really did. She lost her like her resumes.
Seriously, it's just like there's like that the ageism, but there's also just accessibility. I think that's like
Yeah,
one of the issues being where she's from. Like I don't want to make any assumptions, but it's like she just may not know these things, like even I feel like for me, I had to get because I'm first generation. I had to have teachers and other people help me. It's not something that like I necessarily grew up with knowing like how to write a resume, how to do this, how to talk this way, how to show up
yeah,
in interviews. And I can imagine that the age and the fact that accessibility sort of impacts based on, the background and where you're from and your income level. So there's just so many layers of how this impacts her. But yeah, I was so annoyed by the people that were ignoring her, not making any eye contact, just not taking her seriously. And I've heard, and it was ridiculous for me because it's like she's not even that old. And I've
that's
heard
what I was thinking. Oh my
people,
gosh.
like people like 70s, 80s, where they're like, oh, I feel invisible. I've like I don't know how, but I always end up in random YouTube videos where it's like, I feel invisible or I feel this and all this stuff. But I'm looking at her and she's what, a woman in her 40s and she's being
Yeah,
treated this way. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But yeah, it just shows that difference too in generations, like making eye contact and just seeing somebody as a human being. If it all felt dehumanizing, that's the word I keep coming back to.
for sure.
The whole like episode, I was like, dang, I would break down too. It's so dehumanizing to not have people talk to you, look at you, feel ignored, and then yeah, and then just fire you on the spot after 15 years.
Hmm. It was what was it? I wanted to add her when she was talking to her husband. Like I really wanted to cry where she was asking like, "Oh, like do you think referring to his friend like, "Oh, do you think he has any work for like
Yep.
a old like weak woman like myself?" And he was like, "You're not old, like you're young and beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, Tina, like
Seriously.
don't internalize this. Don't let them tell you lies."
Lies, literally lies. Like she's so hardworking. Just as she gets up early in the morning, she gets ready food. Like just seeing how early she gets up, how she's on the move, and she's not giving up. She just kept going and going and going. Yeah. So it's definitely yeah. You make such a good point. She obviously internalized it because of the language that she was using with her husband.
Yeah. And then I think the last theme that I want to touch on that I noticed was food. And of course, like that's always a narrative in the bear, but I feel like with Tina, it really stuck out to me because you could tell like food was already like a love language for her. Seeing her like cook every morning for her family and like prep lunch, and it was an act of love. And then it really made me emotional to see her at the bear when she had the sandwich, and then it made her cry. Like it just kind of seemed like she was coming to terms with her struggle and just like her inability to provide for her family and show that kind of love. So I
Yeah,
think they did a really good job with all the food highlights and just
I
snippets.
think that sort of the sandwich that she had is sort of symbolized. Yeah, she was accepting of what was going on with her, and then at the end when she's offered the job and eats it, I feel like it signified like hope. Like she's like, oh,
Yeah, definitely.
smiled after she tasted it. Like she could really taste the food and
Yeah,
be present with the food instead of just eating it to eat it and like be sad. So I think it represented like multiple things, just the one. Yeah.
I agree. I'm not gonna lie. The first time she bit into the sandwich and started crying, I didn't think it was an emotional breakdown at first. I thought it was like the sandwich was really nasty
Ooh,
because
me too. I was like,
she's
dang.
covering her mouth, and I was like, "Oh, what did Richie do?"
I literally was thinking, I was like, dang, the sandwich is bad. Like the restaurant, no
Yeah,
wonder Carmi came in trying to improve this restaurant. That's the first thing that came to mind. I was also thinking like the line is really long. People are coming in and out. Like the sandwich
yeah.
must be good. There were this is a side thing, but there were like people on Reddit that were upset because when she walked in, she said, you know, what's a Italian, what is it, sub?
Oh,
And sub?
yeah.
And
I
people were
don't know
like,
what the phrase was, but yeah,
yeah, how could she live in Chicago and like not know what it is? Da 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 da. And it's like, bro, like my my immigrant parents, there are things in Minnesota that most people know about that they have lived here for 25 plus years and still don't know what it is. Like their
exactly.
focus is to go to work,
Yeah,
home, cook for their kids, and go home. So that was another side thing. I know I'm completely
I
going on
agree.
board that I was like, people need to realize that depending on accessibility, depending on just like you may not know things that maybe the whole city of Chicago should know, you know, because
I
she's
agree.
so focused on working and coming back home and taking care of her family. Like she's not thinking about Italian sub or whatever that sandwich
Yeah.
is.
I think you said it best. Like everything is intentional. Like I
Yeah,
think that was part of the narrative of like Tina was focused on work, making money, taking care of her family, and she's an immigrant. Like that's not already in her cultural sphere. So why
exactly.
is she concerned about it? It's not really going to improve her lifestyle. I think that was part of the narrative of showing like she doesn't know something that everyone else does, just like LinkedIn
Exactly.
application.
Exactly. So I was kind of struggling with online, like, this doesn't make any sense. Even I know what it is, and I don't. And I was just sitting there like, guys, come on now. Like, this is common. Like, it's not common sense, but I definitely saw it as they're really trying to show us how focused she is on just
Yeah,
work and her family. And yeah, so yeah, everything you said. So that was just a side thing that I kept seeing like show up on articles and back when I watched it that I thought was very interesting. People saying that. I think that was intentional, like you said.
no, for sure. All right. I think we did a really great job of recapping and like diving into the real narrative of this episode. But we're going to get to the meat of the conversation and talk about the woman behind the direction. So
Yay.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Io Debris' vision, her impact, especially her being a Black woman who came from such a diverse background of like acting, comedy to now directing and just kind of how she shaped the spear. So I want to ask you, what do you think her success, or even just like her stepping into this role, means for the future of Black women and directors?
I mean, I think just like with anything, it's just going to provide more opportunities for her. Obviously, in my opinion, it's my favorite episode. I think it's one of the best episodes in this season. And for it to be directed by like a young Black woman, like that's crazy. I was so happy I knew she'd be directing, but I was so happy to have watched it without knowing she directed it, and then knowing it's my favorite episode, and then seeing her name pop up. I was like,
Yeah,
it's just like it's not biased. I really did like this episode, so I think it's just more opportunities for her, and more opportunities hopefully for other, Black women, for just like these people that are in higher places to be able to trust them
yeah,
and trust that they'll offer diverse perspective and just like bring great TV movies into our spaces, if there's trust. So I think it's just more opportunities for her and other people, and also like just more like good stuff for us, as viewers. So that's exciting.
I agree. Heavy on the trust. I think it's showing what people are capable of, especially because typically Black people, Black women, like we're not known for being in this position, and for this to be her first time and it's getting highly praised, I think says a lot. Um, I
Definitely.
also think that I'm a firm believer in setting the elevator back down. So, like, getting somewhere and opening doors, giving other people, like, the cheat code. And I think that's something that hopefully is in the future for other Black women who want to get into this space. So, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And I'm hoping this opportunity for her means for other people.
Definitely. I agree with you. And um, I hope it is. I mean, I guess, I I hope it is. And with her getting this recognition, if she's able to sort of direct more, I hope that, she pulls, like you said, other people with her too, because she'll be in a position of power, similar to Issa Rae does a great job of this. I
Yes.
just, I hope it's sort of the same thing. I was going to say that when it comes to the trust thing, it's so important because, I watch a lot of her talking, like in interviews, and the reason why she directed this is it's not because she said, "Hey, I want to direct." Like it's not because of that. The showrunner, or I think his name is like Chris something. I don't know if he's
Okay.
the director or somebody, but when she when she was very young and she came on the show, he told her, "You're a director. Like I see it." And she was like, "Well, I'm just nosy. Like I just like to be in everyone's business. Like I just like to be, I just like to give opinions where it's not needed." And he was like, "No, you're a director and you're going
Mhm.
to direct." And he saw he saw in her, what maybe she couldn't even see in herself, and trusted her and made her choose which episode she wanted to direct. And obviously, she really liked the script for Napkins, so she decided on that. But that's also so important that there are people in the industry that are able to see you and put you up. So I hope that she's able to do that for other people too. If she sees it as a talent, she's able to bring them up with her. So yeah.
I love that. I didn't even know that. So to hear that tidbit is really crazy. Like I thought this was something she was like, "Oh no, like can I step into this role?" I didn't even know they were like, "Oh no, like you're already doing something. Like come on."
Yeah, no, they really liked her, and they liked that she was super nosy and always talking and giving them opinions. So they're like, "You have an eye for this, so you should really do it." And clearly, like he was right, because what an episode. And who knows how long it would have taken for her to maybe direct, if
Yeah.
this person hadn't told her that and pushed her to do that. So it's great. It's important to have those people in the industry as well. And I hope that with her, she can be that person for a lot of other Black women. That's what I'm hoping.
I also really love hearing that because I feel like it puts such a positive narrative behind. Because like there's a stigma of like being women, not even just Black women, just like women in general. You kind of minimize yourself in a space, and for her to like be nosy and be speaking up, like I love that it brought positive outcome. So it's just telling us like, no, like hold your own in a space, like stand on business. So I
Period.
love
Yeah, it shows also the safe space that's, they say like, oh, the cast is a family, da 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 da.
yeah,
Like it's all, everybody says that, but when I hear different stories here and there, I'm like, oh, like the cast seems like they actually really like each other and they're trying to help each other out and uplift each other. And so it's nice to also know that, you like a favorite show, people that are doing the show are also are good people. It's always, I don't know, it makes me feel really good. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad that it's not
no,
a
I
tough
agree.
environment for especially a Black woman.
Heavy on that. Yes.
Yeah.
um, I guess kind of switching gears a little bit again, I want to lean into her background and I want to ask you if you saw her in this episode, like did you see like her impact and like the scenery, or I guess how did like if you saw her directing there?
Yeah, I would say the one space that I saw her, I was like, oh, this is it, it could be her based on, like, I've watched a few of comedy, I've watched a few of her interviews,
Yeah.
is how comedy, like humor, is mixed with dark moments.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like she makes jokes a lot, and she's a
Mhm.
funny person, dry humor. Like I like her as a person based on the interviews. And I feel like, even the scene that we were talking about with Tina and Mikey, where it's like this really dark time, but I found myself laughing, when she was like, "Oh, I'm not bawling my eyes out." Like, basically like, relax, I'm not crying that much. Or, you know, her saying, "Wow, like I'm so jealous of these young generation," but then going in to be like, "Damn, like I would really give so much to be like them though." I'm jealous of them, and them having that moment of laughter.
Mhm.
Um, and then the scene where the young person is ignoring her, and she's like, y'all really should, remove the job posting.
I
And
love the scene.
and then he's like ignoring her, and then she's like, you should also tell her something else. And then, basically cusses him
Yeah,
out.
I loved it.
So I feel like when I was watching that, and there were like really, really hard times, but then there was still a little bit of humor, I felt like that was her. Like, I don't know. That's what it gave. I don't know if it is, but
Mhm.
I just felt like the way that she did it, the way that it was directed, I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I feel like she has something to do with that.
I had a similar thought. Like I was watching, I was like, I know like the bear has like their comedic moments, but in this episode it felt a little bit different. So I had the same thought. Even when Richie and Mikey were like, "Oh, she can't be crying in here. She's gonna scare off the regulars." I was like, "This doesn't like." It sounds like a conversation they would have, but the way the banter went back and forth, I was like, "This is a little bit different." Like, I feel like this is her mind behind it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's like, even if, like, I don't know, she was definitely involved in some way, just based off of her comedy. I'm like, I've seen like one stand up. I'm like, that's the vibe that it's giving, but I may be wrong. And there would just seem to be a lot of like chaos. Like, there's chaos, but then there's also like comedy and peace. Even in the scene where in the restaurant, there's so much going on when Mikey and Tina are having this like heartfelt conversation,
No,
and
that
the
stressed me
background is
out.
like chaos, chaos, chaos. I'm like, just the I don't know, the contrast, like it just felt like this feels like her a little bit.
Mhm. I would say I think another thing that got me was the pacing because
Mm,
it felt very different. Like I know we already talked about the pacing, but I think on the visual side, usually when I watch The Bear, I feel like it's a lot of okay, like I'm listening, they're telling me the narrative, the
yeah.
plot, which is great. But in this, I found myself like, okay, like I can't have a laptop open. I can't like I need to pay attention because these images that they're putting up, the moments when they're not speaking, they're also saying something through the images. So I have to like watch everything.
Real. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you make such a good point. I did feel like I had to really pay attention. Like, I couldn't just put it on and do other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably her too. She just this it just I feel like I need to watch it again, but it's like it felt very, very different. And so I know that there are a lot of ways that there are a lot of like things that she did to make it that way, because even the visualizing, even looking at it, is felt different than the other episodes. And so I'd have to honestly watch it a few more times to even see and pick up on more things.
I agree. I watched it about once and a half. So I definitely got some impact out of that. I think
Yeah,
honestly, I'm gonna watch it again. Like
me
we
too.
talked about it being a short film, and I think that's what stands out. Like I would happily rewatch this multiple times and still get the same satisfaction, but I don't think I can do that with all the other episodes.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But yeah, this episode I could watch, and honestly, somebody better win an award for this. Like,
No,
whether
I
it's director, whether it's Tina, whether what else? What is the option? Somebody needs to win. Like, somebody better win, because this
for
episode, are you kidding me? Yeah, no, it needs some sort of an award.
sure.
Anything. Yeah.
What is it? I had one more thought in my head and it just like flew out the window.
Mm.
Um, so while I wait for that to come back, before we transition to rapid fire questions, do you have any last minute like closing thoughts, feelings about this episode?
I don't know. It was such a great personal episode, and I'm just so grateful for the writer and for the director and for Tina for really like making it come to life. There's so many things that I related to. So I really, there's not much to say outside of like, I really hope that somebody wins an award for this. That happens.
I think they will. Like, if there's no way that someone doesn't get an award. It was too well crafted.
Too well crafted, too well crafted. Whether it's, like I said, director or Tina wins something. Somebody's got to win. Okay.
I think okay. My thought came back to me. I was
Okay.
gonna say I think this episode for me also like after I found out the fact that this was the one she directed because silly me, I thought it was like episode 9 or something. But finding out that it was this one, I think was impactful because it's a woman directing another woman's story. And I think on top of that, first of all, love that women supporting women.
Love it.
Their relationship between their characters, I think we've seen it grow so much. And then to just see her directive vision for this, I don't know, like I think it's just a play on how close they are as characters in the actual show. And I don't know, I'm probably reading too much into it, but that's how I felt.
No, it's so real. I agree with you. It's just so beautiful to know that even like their characters like they've grown together, and now you know she has this in the back of her mind while she's directing too, as a director, like she just
Yeah.
knows the character. I think it's very important that their characters went through what they went through season 1 and season 2, and then now to be able to direct it.
And fun fact, I love that when they casted for Tina's husband, that it's her real life husband. Because the emotions were there, and I was like, "There's no way the chemistry is just like." Obviously, they're great actors, but I was like, "There's no way they're that good." Like, I was watching the screen, I'm like, I'm intruding on a personal moment. So I love that they're real life partners, and it just added to the dynamic. It's gorgeous.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I love that. I loved it. I also honestly started looking up. Like I wanted to. I've seen him in things, but I was like, oh, I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And when I saw that like that's her husband, I was like, oh, okay, makes a lot of sense. Like they are really eating this scene up. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's great. I love that that's who they casted too.
No, they did again. Somebody deserves an award. They ate on all levels.
Period. To be honest, like somebody better get. I really am award season, Misha. I will be, yeah,
Popcorn man waiting.
waiting to see if somebody wins. Like it's just, yeah. Tina really did her big one.
Yeah.
Wow, like wow, it's like Love Island reference, but like she really did. She really, yeah, yeah.
I love it. Alrighty. As we are getting close to the conclusion, we'll do a quick rapid fire. I want to no explanation needed. If you want to explain, go ahead. But just first initial thoughts. We're gonna go through like 5 or 6 questions and just hear your feedback on the bear.
Okay,
So first one, did you prefer the focus on personal drama or the restaurant challenges?
personal. I love
I
personal
agree.
stuff. I love personal stuff. Like even in other shows, as soon as they get out of that office or out of that school, like in Abbott Elementary, I'm ready. I'm like, these are my favorite episodes. Like, so yeah,
A
personal.
bar scene to Abbott, yeah,
Yeah,
love.
exactly. Personal. Please tell me about that. Like I'm so intrigued by people. Like I just want to know their life.
Oh
Even when
yeah,
I'm walking down the street, I'm like, I'm curious sometimes. Like I'm nosy. I'm like, I wonder what their life is about. I wonder what they went
no,
through. So I'm a
nosy.
sucker for personal.
It's okay. Nosy is good. It might get you in the director's seat.
Period.
All right. Next one. What was the most memorable scene for you? I was gonna say in this episode, but I'll let you do the whole season.
The whole season?
Yeah.
Dang. I'm just gonna do this episode because my brain, I'm like, this whole season. I mean, favorite scene, specifically, I would say in this episode is when Mikey and Tina are talking and Mikey shows her a text from Carmen.
Oh, stop, yes.
Oh,
That was
look
so
at him.
cute.
Like he's the real deal. And I love it's like like they showed kind of, I think it's like the first season we see that. And so it was just so nice to be able to like see how, again, how proud he is as a brother,
Yeah,
how he thinks of it. It was just a really cute moment. So I loved that scene.
I agree. Definitely gave us deja vu, but I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, who is your favorite character? You can only pick one.
That's really hard because it's like who,
Mhm.
I um I'll say for now in this moment, I'll say Mikey. Um, he just seems like, like loving person just based off of that scene and what everybody says about him. So I'll just say Mikey. I'll just say Mikey. Yeah.
Yeah. I do wish Mikey got more screen time, but
Yeah. But
we
girl, when he shows up, he kills it and leaves. It literally be like a 1 minute scene and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like
yeah. I think it's intentional. They won't leave us wanting more. So I guess
yeah.
they
It's just great. Like I don't know. I think even you've you and River
hmm
and Miss Parker have talked about this, but where even Sugar's husband,
Yeah.
where there's not really like he doesn't really show up, but when he does, it's very powerful. Like you want to know more about him, you want to understand him a little bit more, and it's like the same, with every character, even that show, like they give us a little bit, but you still can feel the depth of this person. And so I feel like that is why the bear, one of the reasons why it's so good. Um, but yeah, I like Mikey. Every time he shows up, I'm like, wow, it's really great. But it's hard to choose a favorite character. Like I love Tina.
Yeah.
She's just hardcore, hard worker. She means business, and so it's hard to choose. I love Sid. I mean, like, it's so hard. But yeah,
It,
I'll just say it's hard. Yeah, they're all so complex.
it's
Yeah,
okay. Well, it's okay. We'll go with Mikey for now. We
yeah.
have your others on the back burner.
Kills it. Yeah, the actor that plays him really be killing it. Like he just shows up for a few seconds on scene and just yeah. So yeah, I'll say him.
All right, love it. And then how would you rate this season as a whole on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, it's pretty great. I don't I don't know what's 9.5 out of 10. Like I feel like
Solid. Okay.
every season, I don't know, maybe it's because I need to rewatch it, but when I watched it, I
hmm
was just thinking like it's a lot of anxiety, but it's really good. I just didn't like the fact that like you haven't finished it, but like they kind of leave us on a cliffhanger. Like I hate that. I hate when shows do that. Like they kind of just leave us like, oh my goodness, are you serious right now? Like I can't just watch it next week. I have to wait a whole season for this. And so I didn't like that part, but I felt like yeah, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
I feel like that's fair. It's still pretty high.
Yeah.
Um, and then we did favorite character. Who do you think is the most underrated, or yeah, who do you think's the most underrated character of the bear? Who's the underdog?
Um, I was gonna say the mom, but I feel like she's not underrated. Um,
I don't know. I mean, she's kind of off my radar, so I would consider her.
yeah, I don't. I'm trying to like really think about like because I'm trying to separate the fact that like I'm very impressed with these actors and their character. Like that's what I'm like. Am I just really, really impressed by Jamie Lee Curtis and her acting, or do I actually think it's like an underrated character? Like it's just so hard to separate because I have been so impressed since like the first moment she was on screen. She plays the role so well that I'm just like, what you need help. You have traumatized your kids.
Yes.
Like but I also feel like another character, I'm forgetting his name. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. The
Yeah.
one That's the baker.
Oh, Marcus! Oh my gosh, stop!
I know, I'm so rude. I literally haven't seen, like, I'm so
You love
sorry.
Marcus.
But I love Marcus. I love Marcus.
Yeah,
I love Marcus. But yeah, I'll say the mom. I'll say the mom.
okay. I
Yeah.
like that. I think that's a solid answer.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my last question for you. What's been, I was gonna say the most, but what's been, you can do the most a surprising twist in the series for you?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if what I want to say is you've seen it. Are you like, are you at the part yet where Sid gets like an another opportunity?
Yeah, so
Okay,
I was there where they like propose it to her, but I don't know what she does yet.
okay, okay. I was like, I don't, but I feel like that's a twist for me um that I didn't necessarily see coming. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, but it's like, oh wow, she would have this offer and she would really, really think about it. And just her struggling to sign the contract. You know what I'm saying? Like she's just really struggling to
Yeah.
commit to that, which makes sense. But I thought, she seems pretty committed, but it was just surprising to see her struggle and then get another opportunity. And now she has to sort of make this decision. And I'm excited to see what happens, and if they'll like, there's just so many unknowns in the way that the show ended. And so I think that's one of the twists that I didn't see coming was that she would get this like amazing offer and um yeah, amazing offer. And then I think the mom being there for Sugar's pregnancy was pretty much a
Threw me.
twist. And I knew it. Like I had a feeling as soon as she left to go get this thing that she said
Of
she would be
course.
like, she's gonna have her baby. Like I already knew
Yeah.
just the way that they're setting it up. I'm like, she seems so tired. She seems so stressed.
Hmm.
No one is answering. And that whole scene of them just being together was complete. Just like I'm like, what is going on right now? But again, it was all intentional, very good episode. So yeah, I would say that yeah, Sid getting an offer and then Sugar and the mom reuniting for her pregnancy. That's yeah, for
I
the
have to
season.
say, I love Sydney's character because she's so relatable. Like the girl getting the offer, like she was so awkward about it, and I'm just like, yeah, me too. I feel that.
She's just she's so funny. Yeah, very, very relatable. I agree with you. Yeah, she just yeah, I hope she figures it out. And
Yeah.
I understand though in terms of her like she wants to have a voice, and Carmi is just like not really allowing her. I don't know. It's just like relax. Like she's
Yeah.
very experienced. She obviously wants to be here. She wants her voice heard, and I can understand why she would even be thinking about it. And also she's awkward about it. Like I get all of that. Like it's just
Yeah.
yeah. What
I
would
agree.
you do?
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like it's so hard because just me as a person, like I'm very loyal, so I feel like I'd have a hard time wanting to like go anywhere else. Especially like she's built a family, and Marcus is going through the loss of his mom. Like, how are you just gonna up and leave?
Exactly.
Um, there's just so many factors. And then Sugar just had a baby. Uh, I don't know. I
Yeah.
really, really don't know. Like she's in. It's a great position to be in theoretically, but mentally, you have to. I feel like you're kind of giving up on a family if you choose to leave.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a thoughtful place. It's not like the corporate America BS where it's like,
Yeah.
well, family, but they'll like fire you in a second. I'm also very, very loyal. Like that's one of my top traits. Like to
Mhm.
friends, like I'm loyal, so it would be hard for me to leave as well because it's hard to find a place like that, a workplace that's also family. Because the other place, she's just an employee. Like she
Yeah,
would
but
just
I
be
mean,
working, and then if the business goes down, it's like okay, goodbye, like whatever.
mm,
So yeah,
oh
it's
gosh.
very hard. And like another thing that I was thinking about too. This is I know we're finishing up, but In terms of food, I love the way food is used to show love as well. That's a very big thing in my culture. Like, so just people cooking for you, you eating their food. It's and so like when Sydney, I don't know if it was the season, but Sydney goes, oh yeah, it was the season. After she gives birth, Sugar gives birth. One of the things that she does is like bring a bunch of food to the
Oh,
house.
I love
I was
that.
like, I love this. This is like very much
Yeah.
like I that's what we do, that's what I do, because like no one's trying to make food, so you bring a lot of food, so she made it fresh
Right.
and she brought it, so food also just symbolizes love, in this show, so I love that. But
Mm.
yeah, that's a family, that's another thing, it's a family, so it'd be really hard to leave.
Honestly, just hearing you talk, I was thinking about it. Although Carmi is being a punk and he's not trying to hear her out, he has all these like narratives in his head. I think I would stay and thug it out because I was thinking back to the scene with Sugar and Computer, and he was like, "What's who's Marcus? Like, what's a Marcus? Your pastry chef got to go. He's eating up too much money." And she was like, "No, Marcus is staying. He's family." So I feel
Yeah,
like anyone who would ride for you like that, you can work through it.
exactly, I think so too. I think that's so important in this day and age. What matters is like community, family, love,
Yeah.
and if you're just a number, if you're just, yeah, you're just, oh yeah, this baker can go, this, like it's not an identity, it's not who you are, it's just, yeah. So I would, despite how stressful it is, I think I would also stay. But for the rapid fire, who's your favorite character? Like I was like, wait,
Richie is my favorite character, hands down. Like, he's problematic, but I think I love that about him. It keeps things interesting.
yeah, I love that. I really do. Richie's great. He's so complex. And there's
Yeah.
this thing that this chef said back in the day. I don't know how to say his name, so I won't say it, but like how, anyone can come to the kitchen, and in the kitchen, like you're like you have sort of like a different identity. You know what I'm saying? Like you could be a drug addict, you could be this, you could be that. But none of those things matter when you come into the kitchen. And you see that in the Bear. Like there are these people in the kitchen. Whereas like on the outside, they just may be walking. They're just like. So with Richie, that's like what I think of. Like he really is. Yeah, I love that.
I love seeing him like in his suit, just like owning his space. Like, it just makes me happy because he came up from doing hood rat activities.
With his or her reference.
Mhm.
Okay, what about uh underrated character? Who do you think is the underrated character?
Ooh, I was dying to answer this. Ibrahim, like I want
Yes, I
so
love
much more
him.
for him, and like I really forget. Like I really thought they just cut him off after that one season, and so I forgot he was in the drive-through because they never talk about him.
He's the one that used to be a baseball player, right? Or like almost made it, or
Honestly,
oh,
I don't
maybe that's in
remember.
later episodes. But there's like this beautiful scene. If I'm talking about Ibrahim is the young one, right? The younger black man, or are you talking about the older, the one that has an accent?
The one that has an accent.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
There's this other character. I'm forgetting his name. He also wears a suit. Black.
Oh, I do know who you're talking about, but I do not also remember
Okay.
his name.
Okay. Because there was a scene with him talking about like how he was almost a baseball player, like professional.
Mhm.
But there was just this scene, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I kind of want more. Like, what
Yeah.
is, how did like what? Anyways, okay. Yeah. Okay. Underrated character. Ibrahim. Okay. Yeah. I would love to hear more about him.
I feel like they kind of touched on him. I think it was last season. We saw him like going to culinary school with Tina, and I feel like that's where they really dropped the ball because he just started to fade away after that. And I know there's a purpose, but I want more. Like I really forget about him, and I want to know more.
So true. Yeah. Hmm. That's such a good point. Yeah. Okay. And then how would you rate it this season? I mean, I guess maybe.
I feel like I'm a little my it's not my true answer because I'm maybe like 2 episodes I still have to finish.
Yeah.
But based on what I've seen, I would also place it in like the 8.5. Like I really love what I'm seeing, but it kind of feels a little bit choppy to me with like the restaurant scenes and then the personal stuff. Like usually it flows a little bit better, but this season I feel like I can't catch a sense of the timing. So
That
that's
is
kind of
such a
me off
good
a little.
point. That is such a good point. You'll see, like, I think there's a last episode. I'm like, I'm confused. Like, what's going on? So you'll
Yeah.
see. You
I was confused in like the first three. I was like, so how long have they been open now?
seriously, who's here? What's happening? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely
Mhm.
real, real. Yeah, I love that you said that because it's yeah, I was also feeling a little bit confused at times too. What is your favorite scene? All I guess all together. I gave the season, but yeah, it's favorite scene.
Um, oh my gosh, that's so hard. Mm, I
That's
don't
a
know if it's, oh, yeah, I would say I might have to do this season because
yeah, I know it's really hard to think. Even in one episode, it's the show's so stressful that once you are thinking about one episode, you can't think about anything else because it's like you have to focus on this. Yeah, so it's hard to think about all three seasons.
I don't think it's my favorite scene, but a memorable scene for me was I think they call them the facts, like the two like bigger
Uh,
guys who do like the maintenance stuff. They put up the all the pictures of like the critics in Carmi's office, and it was memorable to me because I was like, okay, like this is such a heartfelt thing, and like it's goodwill, and like I know Carmi saw it as that, but I was like, ooh, I can see the anxiety just like bubbling in him also.
just looking, looking, looking.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, definitely. I
And the
love
fact
that
that after
scene.
all that, they still miss the critic was
Yeah,
really difficult.
isn't that crazy? Yeah, I mean, he's so like. That's the thing that sometimes like that anxiety makes you like miss things like that, you know, because you're not present because you're so
Yeah.
in your head. Carmi needs to watch Inside Out too.
No, honestly, get some insight. Control your anxiety.
Watch that. It's very, very helpful movie.
I,
Yeah. Okay. I think that's I mean, oh yeah. Um what twist surprised you? Any twists?
honestly, the mom, like, I kind of, similar to you, I had an inkling that, okay, she'd be around, but I didn't think she was going to be there at the birth, maybe like
Yeah.
after the fact. But when she pulled up to the hospital and the mom like walked up, I was like, "Ooh!" I was like, "This is gonna be drama."
A mess.
You know,
A mess. And the fact that I had hope for the mom, I'm like, she's gonna show up differently because she's about to give birth, and she was still so
no,
chaotic. I was like, oh my gosh,
I guess at least she's true to who she is. She doesn't put on a front.
like you really need to take a break when you watch the show. Like even in one episode, like it's not like it's great. I realized like I was like, okay, I can't actually binge these. Like I need a break. Like this is
I,
a show where if it came out every week, it would have been useful for people's mental health because it's
yeah.
so much to just yeah. Anyways, but yeah, that episode was really hard to watch.
But I did enjoy it. But I was also very happy when it was over. I
Me too.
was
Me
like, I
too.
can't no more.
It's like her husband needs to immediately be here so that they can
And
just
also,
switch.
how did nobody answer?
I know it's
Not
crazy.
one person.
Everyone's working. Everyone's working. I mean, that's the downfall of like everyone working at the same place in your family because if they're busy and they're doing the
Yeah, that's true.
it's done because she was
Yeah.
calling Richie and then her husband was so it's like she even called Sydney like nothing like everyone was busy so yeah that's really unfortunate but yeah great season um I think they already started taping season 4 so
I really hope so because I
um,
can't wait months on months.
oh yeah you're gonna see once you finish you're gonna be like what the heck is this like I need to immediately know what happens they definitely leave you hanging on a lot of things like
I'm looking
you don't
forward
get
to it.
answers. Not to spoil it for you, but like you don't get answers.
Okay,
Just
nice to know. I'll
you
just
just go in knowing that you probably have to wait till next season for a lot of questions
I
you're
just hope that if it's really as bad as a cliffhanger as you're saying, that they come full force next season because
yeah
I can't do a cliffhanger.
yeah like I'm glad they just release it all because I would hate if they left me on a cliffhanger and then I had to like wait a couple episodes to know what's actually happening like
Yeah.
immediately released these episodes. But yeah, they said that like they started taping pretty soon after season 3, so it should be out in 2025 or something. I don't know.
Uh, I know it's not far, but it sounds far.
Sounds really far. Yeah, it just especially when it's a cliffhanger. But yeah, no, great season, great episode. I love the episode. I love that it was the director. It's just great that I love the episode. It just happens to be a black woman that directed it, a young
Yeah,
black woman. Um, and I hope that it wins awards.
I do too. Thank you again, Hot Nerd April, for joining us on this discussion of The Bear Season 3, Episode 6. If y'all want more on The Bear, if you want a season recap, or if you want different shows, let us know in the comments. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do all the good things. Our socials, everything is in the description. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.